What's up, Dawson? I can't sleep either, man. I can't. You know why? I found out on Monday that over the weekend, I fear-mongered some people, and it's all my fault. So I feel so, I put them in a fearful state. And it's part of the reason I deleted all my videos. But I am curious to see what hits I can get by putting them back up. Because you've seen them already. So if you know that video, you're like, I'm not going to watch that one, probably. So you have to click on it. Because, I don't know, this is like our open mic, right? So I caused some people to become dispirited over the weekend, and I can't. It's just, even now, it's like, I feel at my chest like it hangs heavy there because of it. And, yeah, like, I, this is what gets to me. Seeing other people in low spirits. Everybody just wants to live their life and go do stuff. And now everybody is in quarantine behind some kind, like in one way or another. Like this affects us all. And, like if only in our own minds in quarantine, if we're, feeling well and everything. But it's like this invisible threat that could be, anywhere at any moment. And we don't know if it could come back. And I'm like, wow, that really puts a lot of power in the hands of the authorities, and this is what they're doing. It's terrible. It's like, the effects on businesses, comic book shops, they're not going to have comics anymore. Does that mean just like we'll keep them open for gaming centers and we'll just focus on like Warhammer stuff? Is that enough to keep them open to have gaming tables because the books stink? What about back issues? I know it's bad. And what else? Movies are going to streaming. This is stuff we talked about that they said would happen. But now that it's happening, and it's all happening at the same time, the words that keep coming to my mind is it puts us in like a fearful hell, like inside our minds, inside our lives. And it was really weird because I went to the post office, and I went to the post, and it was everybody coming home from work, and I was like, boom, I just went to the post office. Nobody, no muss, no fuss, just, a couple other people leaving. When I got there, it said keep a 6-foot distance between everybody when you're there. So I tried to crack a joke with the post office, because because it's the post office, and they see people all the time. I was thinking because they remember me, but I'm like, maybe they don't. A lot of people come to the post office. So I was friendly, and I said, oh, should I back up a couple more feet? And I forgot, not everybody jokes like me. So the reaction from behind the counter was kind of grim. And I was like, oh, this person's really like, in their mind, I could see it, It's the end of the world, and, everything bad, and it's going to fall apart. And there's so much online. And the stuff that they, what I mean? Like, it wouldn't do, I'm not saying there aren't things to be concerned about and have a, cavalier spirit about any of this. It's meant to repress, but do not become dispirited. It's like times like this when things, when they're pushing us to feel a certain way, just events in the world, let's call it that. Because of events in the world, I've seen people become dispirited. Some people are nice and friendly, business as usual, and other people just want to keep their distance now. And I think about, like, I said this before, different families, like some families will kiss the kid in the forehead if they got a fever, and then some people are in quarantine. And it's a weird thing to grow up with what you recognize as conditional love as a kid, And again, I keep coming back to, and I didn't say anything to make a kid become dispirited. I said it to adults. But I saw him on Monday. I'm like, oh no. I was like, what's going on? And I felt guilt, I guess you could say. I was like, is this because of the shit that I said or whatever? I'm like, I felt bad about it. I still do. So it made me so careful about what I said. I was like, oh no, with everything that's going on now and all of my videos, I did shots. I had like 2 shots, and it didn't really give me much comfort. And I deleted all my videos. I'm like, I can put them back. I'm like, oh no, what did I just do? People come back to my channel and watch the videos, and here he goes. He just deleted everything without explanation, and drunk. And guilt. I felt bad. I'm like, no, like I don't want to make anybody feel bad about my videos or whatever. So So there's not very many videos left. I'm like, I'm just putting up screensavers and it's just nice things. I just make people feel terrible. And I'm like, but you can't let people put their head in the sand. You got to say something. And there's other stuff like, they're going to come after you. They don't like what you said. So I just went in this whole horrible rabbit hole, and it made me think of other people. I was like, yeah, this is what people are doing right now. So I'm giving you an example from my life of stuff that had me tore up. But now people are thinking like, okay, we're in for this. Whatever how long they say it is, it'll be longer. And then what after that? And the crushing. Well, remember what happened in 2001? I took my kids to see Monkey Bone, and which is inappropriate, probably. But we couldn't because the theaters were open and movies were open, but nobody wanted to go see that movie because what had happened at the release of the movie Monkey Bone. So nobody heard of it. Nobody wanted to go see it. And I still recommend it. My movie DVD for this episode would be A Weird Cacophony, directed by Henry Selick, starring Brendan Fraser, that nobody ever talks about. But it's kind of a cool movie. And I feel it's like the weird spiritual successor or something to a movie like Beetlejuice. Monkey Bone, Beetlejuice, they go together. But I don't know if you should be watching any stuff like that. But, you know, Monkey Bone, we couldn't go see it because nobody else wanted to see it at all. Like, no, we won't even run. We're not even running that because of, you know, what had just happened. But I was like, can you just turn it? I asked them, I was like, can you just turn it on? Like, we just want to see Monkey Bone. We're at the theaters. Like, can't you turn it on because of what just happened? And we weren't going to get to see Monkey Bone. So I can't remember what we went to see. Or if we went to, I can't even remember anything after that. I just remember we went to the movies to see that. And they're like, we're not even going to play that because of all the stuff that happened. And they're like, why are you at the movies, man? So now there's like this invisible threat that we can't see, but apparently it was caught by actors who were, I want to make the joke, who would be good for that part again? There's a bunch of them, I don't even care. But the thing is, every day, all the time, we can be inundated with like fear porn. I don't know. And I don't know, you know, maybe it's a real big bad thing in ways we can't see. But just the same, the psychological effect of not a lot happening so far as preventative measures to squash a bigger thing that's supposed to be whatever. All the shutdowns have their effects on people already. Like, it's just so, you know, everything's quiet. It makes people feel spooky. And then what's there? All the propaganda people have seen over the last decade of this kind of thing. It's all about apocalypse and dystopia. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to give you like a dose of that. So everybody, you know what I mean? It's happening. Like we're in it. They're like scaring us. And I'm not to say that's invalidated. Maybe stuff's being done to us. But it's times like that when we need, you know what I mean? It's like we need to stand together. Well, now they have something that says you need to stay 6 feet apart. Oh, how do you crack a nut like that? Please, Lord, it's a sincere prayer. I know I have a book. It says where we're going, and it scares me. It talks about times of tribulation and everything. But please, Lord, can you squash this one? Those are kind of. I'm like, please, this isn't that big, is it? This is just like a thing where like I don't know. I want other people's rumors to be true. That's like, well, you know, that's not really a lot of people. And in my mind is me, like, every one of those is a person. And every one of those is somebody. You know, I didn't care if it's like thousands escalating. And people talk about numbers and they agree with them or they disagree with them. They say they're higher than they are. They say they're lower than they are. They said even if they're high, that's still not a lot of people. And who do you know? And who does it affect? It's affecting us all. Just the mind, just the mentality of what's been done to us by, like, hey, we have the technology and devices to like tell everybody, hey, we're shutting it down, and anybody who's a straggler will be told, hey, didn't you know? Go home. Church is closed today. You know. So when I did those videos, 2020 is shut down for the year. I mean, yeah, because it's a social engineering plans, you know, like written about in books that I'm too rusty on, didn't even read the whole thing of, whatever, don't have anymore, can't find. And guys are smarter than me anyway, because, you know, like, there's not, you know, I'm somebody else. It's not my, you know, no artist guy or whatever. Used to be. So, yeah, just being locked up. Like people in California have been going for this through a week. I have to check on a video that doesn't shock and alarm and disturb me about what that's like for somebody, because you can see that on YouTube. So we're going through this thing together, but they know that. So who's they? I don't know, like monitors of content. Like you can talk about this, you can't talk about that. So when everybody's locked in, we can stay online more. And it makes me think about stuff like Ready Player One. Like, didn't we all bond online in those times? And then when the internet went down, we talked to each other and we saw ourselves through this event. You know, like the event that prevented me from seeing Monkey Bones with my progenies in the theater. Isn't progeny the plural for progeny? I'd have to, like, I have to see about that. So, I have to admit, well, I don't have to admit anything, but I'll tell you, maybe this is working for you. I've kind of had an aversion from the internet. And I said, I don't know if I said this last episode, busy. No, not busy prepping and all that stuff, just busy anyway. I wasn't getting sleep. I was wore out. And then all the stuff that's happening to us. We all have the stresses of our regular lives, right? And this is my refuge from that. But when I want to talk about stuff that's happening, and they just pulled a big one on us this year in the year 2020, like plenty of people said they would, and it's all stuff that was written in other books. And, you know, go watch a Jay's analysis about whatever he did about all this. Because I always watch that channel. Not all the time. Sometimes the theology stuff is just over my head. I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. You know, I always mention that channel. It's such a great resource for so many things. You know what the things at ease you are. I was getting work done, and I was kind of disturbed by like what I noticed when I went out to the world and how other people were behaving. How is everybody shaken, because it affects everybody. And also the fear that anybody would get sick because, well, they're like, I don't know what I think of this thing. But at the same time, they're like, well, okay, give me a hug. I'm like, I don't know about that, man. You know? So, or people that will touch and make contact, but they make comments that, you know, because they pay attention to people. They matter. You know, I you know, whatever. You've heard my podcast for years, maybe. And I've talked about how I was like a little old man even as a child. And I was always like noticing people and, you know. So I say all these callous and things when in my, you know, last couple of years where I kind of pulled the Band-Aid off of my life. I said whatever I want and let it rip. But I was always this like very observant, softer guy underneath it all. And that was like a doormat. So I haven't been that guy for years because just life beat me up. And I'm like, I can't be like that anymore, right? Well, at least that's how it was for me. So now I'm really sympathetic because I've gone through enough hatefulness and anger and, you know, all that stuff, and the fear and hate and rage, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, over the years of my lifetime of developing it and then squashing it. Oh, this isn't working out for me to behave this way. And I don't have like any big problems in life. I mean, the same things that are, you know, the same issues of anger here, fear or hate or guilt or shame. All, you know, the feelings we have that are the bad ones, that if we dwell in them too long, we allow the devil to become our lawyer and say, well, he's guilty, right? And you're like, you don't even try to sort it out with dad and say, hey, Father, please forgive me. You know, why would you let the devil be your lawyer? For starters, he's a prince of lies. So he's not going to help you. So, I mean, you know, symbolically or whatever you believe. So do not become dispirited. And you're like, yeah, it's easy for you, man. I'm not prepared. I've got like a box of ho-hos and ding-dongs and a couple bottles of Shasta I got from a Dollar Tree, some canned pineapple I was saving for, well, I don't even want to talk about that, man. It's gross. So, yeah, I want to try and keep them. Hey, I've been going out more than ever these days. Really, because I said it before in my other episode, just sometimes to drive around. I don't like it. It's not cool to drive around when people are behaving like it's Silent Hill or something. I mean, it's like their way, like, again, it's like this invisible threat. I mean, if you were a bad guy and you just want to, like, you were evil and you're like, I don't have any power, what could I do? Well, I have a show. I'll do like a War of the Worlds thing when people heard on the radio and they started freaking out. Remember that? And Orson Welles did the radio broadcast of War of the Worlds, and people thought it was real, and they started freaking out. Not everybody, but people that were there at the beginning, they heard like the prologue or whatever, where it says, this is like, we're imagining that if this happened, this is a fake broadcast. And then they did it, and people caught halfway through like, what? That's Orson Welles? Because, you know, they knew who he was. And like, what is he doing? And then people went crazy. They overreacted. And that was the first time they knew that there would be some kind of effectiveness to an alien threat. So I don't know. I think the aliens are coming back. What do you think about the blue beams? I don't know. I don't really want to talk about that kind of thing in this episode. But I mean, that's people say all kinds of silly stuff. We do have the blue beam lasers. That is like a real thing. And you can project it on, clouds. I feel like I'm ruining the episode with this, so I don't want to talk about that. I don't know. I'll keep them coming. I'll keep episodes coming. I want to say I'll do them every day, but I don't want to make promises I can't keep if I can't keep them. But yeah, I mean, I'll try and... I'm going to go on Joke Quest. We're definitely doing dirty jokes. I want to make chocolate chip cookies. So I was like, let's film it and I'll talk to you. But I don't think I'll be able to tell jokes and make cookies at the same time. It's too many things. I had planned on chewing a piece of gum. So it's out. But I realized I was too rough with people. I was too mean with people. And I was disgusted at myself for years when I saw my YouTube videos. So the first time I purged all my YouTube videos, and I did a video about that, of me purging all 820 some videos, I felt good. It did. But then I was like, what'd you do? But I hate watching myself. And I'm like, well, I'm a performer. Make videos. People watch your videos, are feeling down. Pick them up. I don't want to just keep, like, what am I say? Guess what? Here's this. Here's that. You're getting that from everywhere else. I'd like to be a sanctuary for you. I'm this champion of love. I want to cheer you up. So, but that doesn't mean I won't talk about real stuff too, because like we really live here. This is a real world. We're real people. And I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's easy for me to just delete the videos and start again now that I've done it. But I know how people feel about their archives. Like, people had thousands of videos that they did for years, and they monetized them. It was a big deal for them. And yeah, I hate what's happening, because this squashes businesses, and the effect it's having on young people who are growing up. Like, hey, everybody, everything is no more going to the movies, no more GameStops to buy games, even though people weren't buying them anywhere. They weren't buying them anyway. That's where they went out of business. So everybody knew that was coming, but when everything happens all at the same time, or like as a result of the same things, like comics were going out, they're done. GameStop was going out, they're done. But do you not remember Games Plus, an electronics boutique? So, the stuff that they said they were going to do, and books, and those political science books and social engineering, all that stuff, they're doing those things, and we're living it out. So this is, I keep thinking of that Police song. How could, I forget the words, how could there be an invisible sun? But I was like, an invisible threat. And, they do stuff in labs. They do mess with stuff. But like I said, it's like, do they have to do anything, or is it just I feel like this is a retread of the episode I just did for you guys. Should I just delete that one and keep this one up? I don't know. You want to see the rest of the Shadowlands? Show you. Cool, huh? Back to me. Yeah, I don't know if that was the same angle as before. Pretty much. So I definitely want to do an episode of jokes. I want to do chocolate chip cookies. I have some other things. Oh, we're going to the archives again, DVD archives. How can we not be going through this where I can't go through the archives and see what I got that either uplifts and inspires, or maybe that also informs. Lots of interesting movies. Oh, I got a review coming up for sure. Passion of the Christ. I've never seen it. And I'm like, yeah, nobody's doing anything, going where. And I'm a hermit anyway. Remember how I said, you get to a certain age, you don't need friends or this or that. Boy, I didn't realize, like, my casual lifestyle and all the contact with people I came into until it was squashed. It's real, disappointing to me, because I feel like I said a lot of bullshit that I believed. And I'm like, yeah, all that stuff I said in my podcast that I spent like doing for like 2 hours sometimes. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I just don't agree with anymore, because it was my sour grapes, or my way of like isolating myself from other people. Because the problem I have was I care about people, and then they just don't live their lives the way I think they should. And I hate like predicting everything. You know what I mean? So I want to stop predicting stuff, because it doesn't seem so much fun anymore. You know what I mean? Like, putting on the shoulder pads is empowering to me. It's great for my my LARPing to put on shoulder pads with the nanites and everything. But I haven't put them on since this because I'm like, yeah, they symbolize like a Mad Max way of life. And I'm like, fuck that. So does that mean I won't ever put them on again? I think I will, but it just means something different to me now because, like, yeah, like that was a movie about like here's propaganda for the future. There's not enough of anything for everybody. Here's your Road Warrior shoulder pads. Life's gonna be like rough like this. But the whole point of me was saying like, yeah, it gets rough, but we're survivors. So Future Scott is like a guy for you that shows you don't give up hope, don't give up on love. Men and women were made for each other. That's what this planet's about. It's a battle for the planet. They want to isolate men and women from each other. And now look at it. How long before they start saying something like, guess what, everybody should stay in a different room in the house if you have enough rooms in the house to keep everybody separated. And then you can go in the kitchen together alone and spray it on. It's like, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of like logic flaws within like, okay, you have to do this, but you can't do this. And then you're like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not explaining myself properly. Like, you do all kinds of weird things to be sanitary in one way, but then you overlook this whole other way where it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you're cleaning everything up because all this shit's dirty and you're using your bare hands. I don't know, I can't think of an analogy from actual life, but a thing like this. So, yeah, I just hate the isolation, the safe space, the Ready Player One. I mean, I can't say that I ever read anything about, that like everybody has to be so many feet apart and stuff. Actually, I did. It was a Mobius book. It was a Mobius graphic novel. Was it part of the Incal? I can't remember. There's one Mobius story where nobody sees each other's faces because they all wear gas masks all the time because everything's polluted and dirty, so they have to stay clean. And then when the people take their gas masks off that they wear all the time, they find out that they're all clones. They're all the same person. It's some kind of Mobius story, probably with Jodorowsky or something. And it's about the future where everything's all clean and sanitized and people wear masks all the time because it has to be. So I'm sure that's in there. Not Howard Hawks, because he was into the dirt. Who was the guy that was a germaphobe and everything? They're trying to make us all like that because we don't want to touch anything because everything has germs on it. And getting you used to the idea of what a germaphobe was and to be afraid of these things like the way that we are now comes from guys like when Howie Mandel just wants to wash his hands, he tells everybody that he's like that. And then people are like, yeah, I'm a germaphobe, and they make jokes about it on your sitcoms or whatever. Like, look at him washing their hands. This is happening a long time ago. When a hand sanitizer came out, making jokes about it on sitcoms. And now the sitcoms are dead, and people are going to feel further in a state of fear as, like they can't go anywhere to parks, they can't go to the movies. Everything they watch on at home makes them depressed. All the old movies they want to watch are like taken away or something. I don't know. It's messing with people in the worst way, and I really hate to see people become dispirited, and I want to take it away. And it stinks. I went to the Orthodox church, and it says just close until whenever, and I'm like, ah. So yeah, that's gonna, like the movie theaters. Like I said, what did I say? I said movie theaters are there, and it just the, it's like making everything into ghost towns, businesses, making them shut down. People don't want to do stuff, doing the minimum. It just has a huge effect on people, and I can't help get out of my head that like they just told us that they just like, hey, here's your devices. Guess what's happening? Put the word out, and we just like the internet's our grapevine. It's like helping us make our hive mind. All right, so how long before, like, well, I watched Jimmy Kimmel bash the Trump at home from his monologues at home in quarantine. That's all California. So what'd they do? All the pee-pee and the poo-poo problems, and I guess a lot of homelessness and stuff. I know somebody that just came back from there, but I haven't been able to get a hold of them, so I don't know. I wanted to ask them about it, Like, what was that like, being out there? Because they were in the middle of it before everybody's talking about all the virus stuff or whatever. I don't know. Well, I mean, I do. I guess I know where my heart's at. Because I can talk a lot of shit and hate people, but when I see how it's affecting everybody, I'm like, ah. And the other thing, too, is people are nice about it. And sometimes it's great because I see their spirits picked up, and sometimes it makes me sad in the same way as the people who wear it on their face. Because it's like a fearful cheerfulness that's not they're not winning it, you know. So I was like, oh, what kind of man am I capable of being? And I was like, well, I could be that guy more. So more sober time, sure. I had a shot and it was like nothing. I was like, oh, it's the warmness of a shot. Like, I don't drink. I don't know if you know this. I always talk about the bottle of whiskey because that's all I have. And I had a couple shots, deleted some videos, and then I had a shot. I said I can't sleep. And I was thinking about you guys, and I had a shot, and it just didn't do anything. It was just like nothing. And then I was remembering times in my life that were terrible, when I was getting divorced, and just other things that, you know, like bad times in life. And I remember how it wore me out and how I was stressed for like weeks, for months over certain things in life. And I'm like, yeah, they want to put everybody through this for a year. And people are growing up through this. And I know this is the West and the rest of the world. Like, yeah, what about other places where it has hard times? Yeah, well, people that already have it hard in, like, you know, people that have it hard here, you think it's going to get better over a year of like being like this? It's stinky. Sucks. And those are not the right words. It's like those words are lacking in weight. And we have all these stupid movies like I talked about before, you know, to make people think dumb things. Or like, well, I don't know, I don't think much, I watch things, and then now we should be like the movie. And it's the same, they use the same trick to discredit movies and say, or now they just say, well, look at the movie, it's like foreshadowing, well, we said if these things would happen, what would it be like, blah, blah. So you watch, it's just a big mess. Am I making any sense? The predictive programming of films where like you watch a movie and then that kind of thing happens in the world, like with Black Mirror episodes and all that shit. Yeah. I'll try not to let the next episode be rehashed. I feel like a lot of this is what I just said just in the last episode before. But there really is, like, since I've done this so much, I watched the David Stewart video, and he's very inspiring for creatives, all right? And again, it's probably a guy's younger than me. I think he said he's a millennial or something. So anyway, I watched the David Stewart video about like creatives getting it together, and I'm like, it was like 9 points or something. And I was like, I know all this stuff, but I'm not doing it. So I thought, I've done so many videos and I think I've gotten better at it. Where's my professionalism? So oddly as it is, sleeping in the middle of, this is my late night show, and I want to get more creative with it. Like, I have an applause light and I have to use that. So like, you know, I don't know, it'd be funny because it's like a late night talk show in bed, which is, if those guys are late night talk shows, why don't they do their talk show in bed? Or like, why don't they do it like that if they have a rest to stay home? That's the kind of thing Conan O'Brien would do. He was the only guy, Conan O'Brien and David Letterman, those are the guys that were funny on the late night. I don't know what's going on now because I don't have TV and I don't care about those guys, and I don't click on Jimmy Fallon's YouTube. I only watch those guys to see what they were doing when everybody's staying home. So I like the idea of everybody staying home and entertaining each other. But when I wanted to uplift as well, and I want to only do it in, you know, like appropriately. Because what I think people liked that I did was just off the rails. And I'm like, no, I can still do the same stuff, but it'll be better if I'm more careful with, like I have more care when handling the episodes when I do them. Even though they're improvised, I know where I'm going. This one, I don't really know where I was going, except I knew where I was starting. I was starting from the guilt I felt about, and I took it up with Dad. I said, call your father. He's, you know, I don't know how it is, but whenever, you know, whenever I call, he listens at least, you know, that I appreciate. Doesn't mean I'm right or I'll get my way. Maybe that's not what I need. But for these reasons, still I pray. Why? It's the way. What way? The right way. You'll be happier. You have a father. Planet Daddy issue. Oh, yeah. So, Passion of the Christ. I wonder what I'm in for that. Because Jesus of Nazareth, I know it's not as long. It's just the end of this. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But we'll see. I'll have a review of that. I'll probably review some other movies, some fluff, some funny stuff. I don't know. Whatever I can think of. I've got some ideas. But I also don't want us to be putting our heads in the sand. And the thing that bothers me is, you know, because I predict stuff, like the year ahead, we're like, Oh, I know what that means. That's not cool. Oh, that's not cool. And it means people are suffering. And we think about it every day. I mean, we don't think about it every day that people are suffering, and some of us do. It takes its toll. But when you have it like this, again, it's like an invisible threat that clamps down on us all. It takes its toll. So I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought as to what prediction. I mean, I have given it thought about the year ahead, but I don't like my predictions because, it's just about putting us. I don't know how long you've been here. How old are you? Do you remember what it was like in 2001 when I took the kids to see Monkey Bone and I couldn't get into the movies because they wouldn't play that movie because nobody wanted to see that? I don't know. I'll show you Monkey Bone at the archives. It's got a lot of weird stuff going on. It's about a guy who goes into a coma. That's what's his name? Georgia Jungle. Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser is a cartoonist and he creates a character called Monkey Bone, and he goes into a coma. And it's not a spoiler alert. It's what the movie's about. The monkey escapes the coma and somehow gets in and possesses his body. So it's about a demon possession story about a guy trapped inside his body during a coma. And it's funny. It was written by Harry Knowles and other people and directed by Henry Selick or something. Remember that Ain't It Cool News? He was like one of those guys they use as like he was like a guy in a Segway. He's like one of the OG guys that sits at, not a Segway. He rides those little motorized carts, whatever. Forget it. Ain't It Cool News? He had some kind of they hashtagged him and then they his website's dead now. I don't even know if it's still around. It used to be the place to go for movies and news. Ain't It Cool News? It used to be the place to go. What's going on? This guy loves everything. Some people do. They love movies. They love everything. They don't think about it like I do, like it's programming or anything. They just get programmed. They find things to like in it. And that's the good in them. So I would make fun of them and call them stupid and the people that make that stuff. And it's weird. It's like people get compromised and then they want to deal with it. So they lie and they double down and it just keeps getting worse. It's like those commercials I remember for the Church of Latter-day Saints. When you tell one lie, it leads to another, and the lies you tell or give out on each other, and then you keep on lying. And it's about like not lying, like don't lie. I'm a performer, okay? So yeah, I mean I've caught myself being like it got me. Like I'm a little bit more careful, like I'm wiping my ass when I take a shit and I'm like, wow, I didn't really think about toilet paper before. I just used as much as I thought I needed and I flushed it. And sometimes it was a lot. And this puts people into that Agenda 21 thinking, which I've seen for years. And, like if you catch somebody, we're like, well, you said this. I'll give you an example. This is an example I've used in episodes before, in old ones. I was at Echo Village. What was it called? They had a name for it. The Echo Village initiation. So it was like initiation where all the people that had put money into the land were going to have like a camp out on the land and everything. And it was all vegetarian and vegan organized, and they didn't want to hurt animals. And people were talking about like, well, what if I want to skin some deer on my property? Is that going to, freak out your vegan kids if they see a dead deer hanging from a tree because that's what you do? Or wherever it is in our Echo Village here. And the people were like, oh no, these specific people, as a couple, as a boyfriend and girlfriend, they're like, no, and they started crying about animal cruelty, like in tears. And how could you do this thing? It became like this debate back and forth, like, how could we look out across our beautiful thing we've created in nature of our kin domain and everything, and then there you are with blood, and you can smell the smells coming downwind. I grew up with this. I know smells of blood. It's horrible when they're in tears and everything. And then it's like the same day, there were snakes in the woodpile, and the same people that were the vegans were like, no, we have to kill the snake, get an axe and cut its head off. I'm like, wait a minute, what did you just say about animals and eating them? It's okay to kill them if they're going to bite kids? Well, yeah, obviously, that's how I am too, but I eat them. I'm not going to eat a snake, but I'll eat animals. So you see what I mean? Like their whole ethical vegan debate was out the window when a snake showed up in the woodpile. And granted, it was a guy's good impulse. He's like, no, we got to kill it. There's kids here. But it's probably because there's money involved and he didn't want to deal with snake bites or lawsuits or whatever on some kind of hucksterism these guys were putting together, because it wasn't all together. And that's why I was there. So I'm just kidding. But no, the whole other thing about like these different like ethical dilemmas that come up, like some people saying like, well, people have pets, but the pets will be able to run free. It's like all these people have deluded ideas. You can't just let your dogs run loose. That's another thing not to think about. I thought about that too. I thought about like, should I have dog food for other people's pets in case they would need dog food or something? I thought about dumb shit like that. You know, like if, you know, because everything is provided. We live in this artificial Garden of Eden paradise oasis here in the West, especially in a lot of America. Like I've said this before, and I'll say it again, like the convenience culture. A lot of people got through the 90s with exactly what they showed you in the movies, living at gas stations. I remember the famous story of a famous douchebag, Dave Grohl. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. But he talked about just living off of 2 corn dogs a day. And I'm like, yep, I heard other stories, whatever their poison was that they lived off of, it sustained them. It doesn't take much to survive. But when you can't get much and the quality of food continues to degrade, I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff I talk about all the time in our episodes, like the dialing it back. And I'm like, yeah, it sucks. It's cool to talk about it and watch it, but it's not so cool when they just like, we have like this huge invisible threat that just squashes everybody. Stay home, stay in, don't do anything. And what's the new stuff? I don't know. The videos that other people make for each other, is that going to be okay? You're still going to be able to do that? I mean, I think about this stuff like if YouTube wasn't evil, you know, whatever it is, bad guy stuff, that this would be a great time. But I'm like, yeah, they're doing all this to us. This whole thing is like an orchestrated big thing to make us feel terrible. And, you know, like there's a very, you know, thing to worry about with the illness and everything. So yeah, it's just like everybody's like, yeah, here we are. Here's this thing we're doing to us. But I don't want to, like, how do you not just go along with like evil plans or something peacefully? I don't keep making videos. Do not become dispirited. You hear the dog freaking out? Yeah. I don't, it's not necessary, I don't think. You know, but it creates a mindset that everybody's like, oh, let's just let this thing happen and clear. But it's gonna leave a residual effect on people. I knew somebody that, I'm being delicate about this. I've known a lot of people that came from orphanages, and one of the things I learned about them was that they could be hoarders because they know what it was like to live rough stuff in an orphanage. So they would hide stuff in the house and have like little, it was irrational because they were like basically adults, but these kids that grew up in an orphanage would hide things like stashes, I guess, like you know, like how people have like their shit backpack, like I have my backpack, it's my survival backpack or whatever. Well, orphanage kids will sometimes have like little survival stashes even in the house, even if they have parents. They're not in foster care anymore, they're adopted, they have parents, somebody loves them and wants to keep them because it's worth it, because somebody, okay? And then they just can't escape the thing that's irrational, where they're like, it's like, it reminds me of like when you go into a shed and you're like, oh look, a rat brought dog food into, or cat food or whatever, like cat kibble. I don't have a cat. Wow, like this rodent brought kibble from some other, you know, from a neighbor's place that has cats or whatever. I don't know where I'm going with this story. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I just don't see any use in going, you should be screaming and yelling. And I mean, yeah, you should be, you know, quietly preparing to stay in for a while because they told us that was going to happen. But it's going to have a residual effect like it has on people who grew up in an orphanage, especially like with foster care and stuff. Setting store, you know, the animals do it. They prepare for the winter. But we just used to have everything like France, I don't know if it's what it is now, but France was always prideful of that they took care of, they always made sure that they had their own food supply to sustain them, right? I don't know if you know that about France, but that's how it was. Like, that's how it's been. Like, since I know them, I'm like, yeah, they want to make sure that they have their food supply. I mean, they get stuff from other countries and stuff for sure, because America, how I found this out was that America was the #1 exporter of horse meat to France because they ate it, and people weren't eating it anymore, so that was being shut down. So the business of exporting American processed horse meat, horses processed in America for food, they were all went over to France. So that was a luxury for them. They had to import it. But the rest of their food supply, they claimed that they could, always take care of their country. Did they wreck that now? I don't know. Borders in Europe. There's some places in Europe where you can just get to like a whole bunch of different places from. You know what I mean? Like all these places are like near each other. You don't think of Europe like that if you're an American. Well, I mean, not a lot of people don't. I mean, Americans as well. If you're from Europe, you know all about it. Everything's different. But America, in its own way, is sort of isolated world from the rest of the things. I mean, not from Canada or whatever, but that's still America. I mean, it's not wrong to set store by things, but now people think about it differently. So it makes me think about quality control of products and stuff like that, and the diminishing quality of things. And I already said movies, like the dialing it back and not caring about special effects and spending money. This all fits into like Agenda 21, a scarcity and lack mentality, all the stuff I saw with the eco villages and the green agenda stuff, and it's all like it's fearful, fateful, like doomsday thinking. It's like a lifestyle choice. That's why I have to be so clean and pure. Oh, some of the worst people I ever met were hippies. Not in the 60s hippies. Hippies like now, like people that you would call hippies now. Like people that are into environmental stuff, and even people that do a lot of things that are good, like growing their own food and, have chicken coops and stuff. See, now I'm shitting on people anyway. I'm ruining the episode. It's just, I've seen the hang-ups that people like that have. Maybe that's the polite way to put it. And they're good people, but it can be easily squashed. With stuff like this where they tell everybody like, well, people don't know what to think, so just like stay home and don't know what to think, and we'll keep telling you, and you'll be scared, and then we'll have celebrities come in, and I don't know, is Rosie O'Donnell waving anybody? Is she around anymore? What's Ellen doing? Is she doing? I have to look up YouTube Ellen quarantine videos or whatever. I don't watch any of these shows, but I'm curious, like, what they have to say about it, because they want you to see them, and they don't say anything, I don't think, without saying like, is it okay to say this? Like they have like agents and everything is sanitized and perfect so it's not offensive to people or whatever. But I mean, how do you keep being celebrities when like bad hoods become worse hoods? Like, did you ever see those driving around? Like, it's different places. Like driving around this place, it's like in a state of like driving around. I don't know, anywhere, and it's a hood, and they just drive around for 10 minutes. And you get to see how it's all shitty to live there because everything's all broken and everything. All that kind of stuff with this. And they've been complaining about for years about FEMA, like how they didn't help people properly on all the stuff when they're in the stadium and all that Hurricane Katrina and everything like that. So, what's this? Plus, there's all these. It sounds like I'm doing bad things now, isn't it? Let's stop. Stop that line of thinking. This is the kind of thing to keep you awake all night. It's just, I think about the stuff that's happening, and I see it on people's faces, and it hurts my heart. Is that enough? And that's part of the reason I isolated myself from people, over the last several years, which I did episodes about this. I was like, I'm too old. I don't want to have friends or anything, which is dumb. You're supposed to have friends your whole life. And a person, and I do, but a person who's friendless, that's so sad. You know what I mean? You're supposed to associate with people and know them and everything. And some people are loners. They don't have like a lot of friends, but you know people. And it's a shame when we're being like this has such an effect on how we will behave around each other, not getting close, not touching, you know, whatever. And then some people are like, "Oh yeah, forget that," and just grab a hold of you, beat the shit out of you. That will help people not be violent. I don't want to get blood on me. They might have the virus. I'll get it on my blood. It's just all kinds of stuff that people can do to their heads. They already have germaphobes. I'm thinking of people that might have been raised by germaphobe parents or something, what that's like. And if it like made them like not like if like they were germaphobe parents and then their kid grows up and the kid's some kind of maniac like their parents, so it's like even worse. Or they go the other way where they're like, now I'm just like a mesophile and I'm obsessed with dirt. Oh yeah. I don't know, I think about times when I was stressed out and had it took a toll on me, cost me my health. Like I had, you know, I say this all the time, I had a, like, I don't know, almost a year of I didn't get sleep properly. Because I was having nightmares. So I was like, what's this doing to people? And then kids, and there's so much stuff people can watch that will make them feel fearful. You know, even, like, why would you want to watch horror movies? When people say they like horror movies, sometimes it makes me think of somebody I know had to clean up after car accidents when they were a child, which is not something you make a kid do. So they don't like to watch horror movies. So I thought, oh, well, people have actually seen real shit, don't like to watch gore and horror and stuff. And then I know that that's not true because there's guys in the military that have seen horrible stuff and they don't boast about it, but then they'll still watch those things. And not as, because they're like grim about the realities of the world and stuff. I just don't know what the disconnect is. Like if I was trapped somewhere forever, like spent somewhere stationed and it was hard times, I wouldn't want to go home and play games. I don't get that mind. I don't get the disconnect where you're like, is it like where guys were veterans in other wars where they would it's like I gotta go in the woods because like being out in there in the field with Charlie or whatever, and they're there somehow, so they gotta have a cabin. I know two Vietnam guys that were in Vietnam that are like this. They had to have cabins, but they're not the only ones. It's like a thing, like going to the woods, whatever, because of whatever they're traumatized. Or they feel safe, they don't feel safe around people. I don't know, maybe that's what it's about. It's not the same for everyone. So, yeah, I mean, this is traumatizing people in the most effective means possible. You know, what we just watch stuff like, oh, it's a distortion of reality. Like movies, TV shows, stuff like, it's a distortion of reality, and look what's scary. And then they tell you stuff when it's like, you know, stay home, keep watching, and be scared because that's what we do. We watch things. Well, now's a good time to still have physical media if you want to shut out everything. Oh, we're staying in, fine, I'm staying in. And, you know, everybody's talking about, you know, watch movies or DVDs or stream stuff, whatever. And I think about a year of fuckery of like, well, what if people, you know, oh, the lights aren't working, the internet's down. You know, it's the stuff that happens in life anyway, you know? And I'm just like, man, can't I just fix everything for everybody? Yeah, I wish I could. It's a big plan. It's crappy. I like all the older stuff. The older stuff that they put on a computer, like old, I was watching old Lettermans. Not the episodes, just like segments, like Chris Elliott segments on Letterman or whatever. I watch some of those. Like, you know, it'd be better to pray or read the Bible. I could do that stuff too, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, just give me the thing that I'm programmed that I remember, you know, it's like some kind of comfort. For some people, it's food. What are people doing now about that? Oh, I'm gonna make my favorite things or whatever. Hold up forever. I don't know. And with everything closing down, like they said it was gonna do too, I just keep thinking like how that has like an effect on people. I'm what closing down specifically? Movie theaters, again, GameStop. Just, you know, yeah, I know people didn't go there, but that it's not there, people will bug them. And that the movies all stink now. They're all, you know, anti-masculine. It's anti-men and women propaganda. That's all there is, I guess, right? It's anti-everybody propaganda. Yeah. I don't know. Was it as good for you as it was for me? I feel like... I don't know. I guess I'll let you go. If I have anything I can throw in the end of this, maybe I will. I don't think I will though. I think this will be the end of the episode. All right. See you soon. I'll be back. Sweet dreams. Thankfully, no lullaby music for like an hour and 17 minutes like the last episode, right? I was like, when I was putting it up, I'm like, well, this is the episode, but boy, that would drive me crazy hearing Beautiful Dreamer like that over and over again. No, thank you. So anyway, peace be still, peace be with you. Do not become dispirited. Call your fathers, plant daddy issue. There's probably some things that are bothering you. Might want to sort it out. I don't know. Be good.